Förderverein des Peter-Singer-Preises für Strategien zur Tierleidminderung mit seinen Vorstandsmitgliedern Stefan Bernhard Eck, Sandra Gabriel, Dr. Petra Kuppinger und meinen Söhnen Udo und Martin Neusel und mir selbst ehrt Frau Ingrid Newkirk als die Mitbegründerin und Präsidentin von Peta, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, mit der zweiten Vergabe dieses Preises und unterstützt mit dem Preisgeld ihre gemeinnützige Arbeit für die Tiere. The Association for the Promotion of the Peter-Singer-Preis for Strategies to Reduce the Suffering of Animals honors Mrs. Ingrid Newkirk, the co-founder and president of Peta, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, with the second award of this prize, the money of which is to support her non-profit work for animals. I present the second Peter-Singer medal to her for her excellent contributions for animal welfare and animal rights. Now I must get out the medal. Wait a minute. This is it. And last time Peter Singer made like this, and you should do the same.
Thank you, everybody, very, very much. And thank you to Dr. Walter Neusel and your association for the promotion of the Peter-Singer Prize for Strategies to Reduce the Suffering of Animals. You have created something very, very special, and I am delighted to receive this prize, which will go to Animal Rahat. This is the working program for animals in India. So that is where the prize money will go, and thank you. The working animals in India suffer so greatly. I'm not really pleased to have had to watch that video again and to try to relive that experience. But I also want to say two things about the presenters. One is, two people made me cry. Melanie was in that van full of yogis. What she didn't tell you is those were spiritual yogis, and Melanie was the only person who offered to help me. So thank you, Melanie. And Manfred, I'll tell you a little something about him. I was also crying when people couldn't see me on that journey, and Manfred gave me his shoulder to cry on many a time. But one day you saw two black bullocks, they're almost bison, the water buffaloes, being beaten, and they were foaming at the mouth. I couldn't stand it. We were making a documentary. Manfred was making the documentary, and I couldn't stand it. And so I argued with the man, and I got a price, and I rescued those two brothers. And I took them under a tree and gave them water. They were just frightened out of their minds. And I went to tell Manfred. And Manfred said to me, "Ingrid, you can't do this. We're making a documentary. You're ruining the documentary if you rescue these animals." So I went to negotiate, get a home for these buffalo. And when I came back, I saw Manfred running up to me, and he said, "Ingrid, I just bought this cow. I couldn't resist." This cow had fallen down and couldn't get up, and he said, I had to buy her. So we have a mutual secret, which is no longer a secret. I feel especially honored to receive this award because it was Peter Singer's book, Animal Liberation, that changed my life and inspired me to start Peter back in 1980. He opened my eyes to the fact that you don't just treat animals kindly within the context of using them. You have to realize that we are animals, and that animals are not ours in any way to use. So it was Peter-Singer. First, excuse me, because I don't know any German other than Volkswagen, Dachshund, and Bier. So I'm sorry. I want to start by quoting Nobel Prize, Peace Prize winner, Archbishop Desmond Tutu. He wrote this. He said, "I have spent my life fighting discrimination and injustice. Whether the victims are black, women, or gays, I have seen firsthand how injustice gets overlooked when the victims are powerless or vulnerable, when they have no one to speak up for them and no means of representing themselves to a higher authority. Animals are in precisely that position unless we are mindful of their interests and speak out loudly in their behalf. Abuse and cruelty go unchallenged." Those are the words of Archbishop Desmond Tutu. I think we have been slowly, much too slowly, evolving our understanding of our responsibilities to all the others, whoever they may be. And we have an absolute obligation, because of our power, to show kindness. This year, the Harvard Graduate School of Education sort of agreed with that. They issued a report on the value of reducing competitiveness, challenging each other all the time so we can be at the top, in favor of consideration to all others. But first, because it matters to Dr. Neusel so much that our movements come together, I thought the focus, which is a wonderful thing to care about, I thought the focus of my talk should start with our movements connected to other movements. I think it is, I know it is impossible, as impossible to be a meat and dairy eating environmentalist as it is for Donald Trump to go and give a lecture at the Max Planck Institute. And I say this because a staggering 51% of global greenhouse emission gases are caused by animal agriculture. Animal agriculture is the largest source of carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide in the world. More than 1/2 of the world's water is used up by animal agriculture, and it drains the aquifers. For every 1 pound of fish that's caught, 5 pounds of unintended marine life is caught. That's dolphins, turtles, rays, seahorses, and they're thrown away. 110 animal and insect species are lost forever, every single day in the Amazon. Rainforest destruction, it's not something that just happens there, and it's not something that relates only to there. It's because of the greed in the West. Farmed animal manure is 130 times that of the human population. We are not talking about birds or bears or animals out in what remains of the forest or the jungle. We're talking about the animals we raise, we take deliberately and put in sheds and raise because we want to eat them or wear them or experiment on them. So this manure is fouling our waterways, our rivers, our streams, and that runoff, which is full of chemicals, is killing wildlife everywhere. Worldwide, every year, 365 days, we slaughter over 64 billion land animals, 90 billion sea animals, for a total of over 150 living beings who are killed just for a quick taste. In the United States, in just 1 year, we throw away more than 15 billion pounds of animals' bodies. That's more than 3 billion pounds of eggs, 25 billion pounds of dairy products like cheese and milk thrown away. I go outside my hotel room in the morning when I'm traveling, and I see the breakfast trays or the dinner from the night before trays with all those animal bits and pieces on them. What did they die for, if anyone tells you that eating animals and stealing their products is necessary? What is necessary about throwing them away? Those figures don't even begin to count the number of animals who die in transit. Pigs have skin just like ours, exactly like ours. And when the sleet or the snow comes through the slats on the transport trucks, that skin sticks to the metal. It sticks with the water and the moisture to the metal. And when they get to the abattoir, they have to rip the pig off the side of the truck, leaving the skin behind. Those figures don't count the animals who die of illness and injury on the factory farm or anywhere else. And those animals, as we have seen time and time again, lie there. They're hurting. They don't have a drop of water. They don't have any pain relief, because that costs money, and we want cheap meat. We have documented that on every single factory farm we've been in. I would love to stand here and say, sometimes we go into a laboratory or a fur farm or a dairy farm and everything is good for the animals. I can't say that because it never ever is. And it's not just bad, it's stinking bad. Much of the waste is from chickens. Americans eat 1 million chickens every hour. And Germany isn't that far behind per capita. If you know chickens, you know they have personalities. Some are very shy, some are very strong, some flirt with the rooster, but they're wonderful individual people. And every one that's strung up is afraid. Every one that's strung up can smell what's happening. It is also as impossible to be a leather-wearing environmentalist as it would be for me to go to Patrick Baboumian, who's up there, where are you, and try to arm wrestle with you, or Mr. Universe, who's also vegan from last year. It wouldn't work. The animals who end up on people's feet and in the jackets and the car seat covers and the couches aren't volunteers. They didn't die of old age. And their production is part, as Manfred said, of our environmental crisis. Many people say to you, oh, leather is just a byproduct of the meat industry. It's not. It's a co-product. The meat industry depends on the leather, the skin of the animal, in order to make a profit. Most leather comes from India, where it's, even if you see a label that says made in Italy, it usually means that this poor thin cow was killed in India. The leather was shipped maybe to Italy and made into a bag or a garment over there. There is so little meat on the animals by the time they reach the slaughterhouse. Other people say to you, oh, it's okay to have leather because it's natural. It's biodegradable. Well, it is if it's on the cow or the pig, but when you take it off the animal, then you have to treat it with what are called mortants, which is more for death, to stop it from decomposing. In the tannery cities of Kanpur, India, and the villages around it, where leather is chemically treated, adults and children are covered in rashes and boils and sores. So for those of you who we're trying to educate, who say, well, what about human beings? Yes, then you won't wear leather. The hell with the animals. if you just care about children or women or workers or people in the underdeveloped countries. The main culprit in the tanneries is chromium, which causes birth defects. It's carcinogenic, it causes cancer, it causes mutations. Serious problems also come from benzene-based dyes, from chromate and bichromate salts, from butyl acetate, ethanol, sulfuric acid, and ammonium hydrogen sulfide. These are all used to make leather non-biodegradable. And they bring allergic reactions. People's skin can't take contact with it. 90% of those who work in, human beings who work in the tanneries or use water that is flushed out of the tanneries into the streams suffer premature death. But these villagers in places like India have no choice. We're the ones sitting over here demanding the goods who have the choice. We can choose for them. They have no choice. They have to cast their nets for the sick fish in the water that contains the effluent. They have to cook their curry in the water that comes from the stream full of the effluent. And men, even youngsters, stand all day, day after day, bare-legged in those tanning vats. They cough from lung disease, but they don't know what else to do because the effluent has ruined the land. Plants can't grow. They used to be agrarian. They used to produce plants. They can't do it anymore. The land is dead. So as for them, the question is work in the tanneries or die. But it's also work in the tanneries and die. There is no choice. We are the ones with the choice. As for women's rights, you have to ask, what kind of woman of reproductive age would work in a job where they're exposed to mutagens and things that cause birth defects, tetrotoxins, and so on? One who has no other option, and that is all these women. They have no other option as long as we demand a leather handbag, leather shoes. So animal liberation is human liberation. And no one has to care at all about animals. I hope they do, but they don't need to stop all this exploitation. As children, we grow up surrounded by animal motifs. We have animals in the home, we have animal pictures, we have animal books, animal cuddly toys. We love animals. If you go to the internet, you can see the YouTube videos of the little boy in South America whose mother feeds him his dinner, and there are little pieces of octopus on the plate. Have you seen that? And he says, you know, Mommy, why did we have to kill the octopus? And eventually he makes her cry. And he's asking the genuine, heartfelt question of the innocent who haven't been ruined by society and pressures. You may have seen children on the internet hugging animals because they consider them their friend. Can you see that? Is it too much light? No? A friend of mine who is a physician was telling me about another physician whose child had come home from school, little child, and he was laughing and laughing. And she said, what are you laughing about? What's so funny? And he said, Mommy, the teacher had that day taught them the names of the animals and how to spell the names of the animals. And he said, it's so funny. The chicken Birdie is the same name as the chicken we eat. And the mother had to say, and the mother did say, sweetie, that is the chicken we eat. And I thought when I heard that the only reason that children eat pieces of animals is because they don't know they're pieces of animals. As they grow up, they get used to eating the pieces of animals, and then suddenly the taste is there, the family support is there. But what does happen to us when we grow up? Why do we harden our hearts? What happens to us that we forget? We become ashamed of our emotions. And your emotions are integral to your being. We are not robots. And when we grow up, even then, if we see somebody attacking a dog on the street, beating a dog, we'll do something. Most of us will rush out and we'll try to stop them, or we'll call the police, or we'll get help from someone else. We won't allow a dog to be beaten in front of us on the street. So why do we turn a blind eye to institutionalized cruelty, which is so much bigger, that happens all the time, all around us, as if we can't see it, when we are the thinking animals and we can think about it and stop it? So other animals have the same experience as we do. They have the same feelings as me, this animal. They feel love, they feel joy. And perhaps you see in the video, I think it's from Germany, of the cows being released from the barn after being inside all winter, the joy that they show. We talk about loss of life a lot, but fear is something very real for most animals captured by this species. Here is a little bit of a China circus video we shot of how they train the animals. Videos of the little boy in South America whose mother feeds him his dinner, and there are little pieces of octopus on the plate. Have you seen that? And he says, you know, Mommy, why did we have to kill the octopus? And eventually he makes her cry. And he's asking the genuine, heartfelt question of the innocent who haven't been ruined by society and pressures.